From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We're joined as always with our super producer, Paul Mission Control Decant. Folks, serious warning, serious disclaimer. Tonight's episode may not be for all lizard people. Have you ever felt like there was some secret group running the world? I think most of us have at some point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got many names, right? The Illuminati, perhaps.
They
live,
them, you know. Yes.
I haven't seen They Live. I'm so familiar with the tropes of it all. That's sort of almost the lizard people kind of vibe, right? Like the
yeah. And this, and also, Matt, I appreciate the shout out to the stars of the show, the stuff they don't want you to know. In tonight's episode, we're exploring one of the most long-running genres of conspiracy on the planet. The idea that some shadowy cabal really does run the world. A cabal that may not be entirely human.
Only Rowdy Roddy Piper can save us.
Here are the facts. I mean, of course, right? If you're an intelligent person, you look around, and most people are intelligent, you look around, and at one point or another in your life, you think, somebody might really be running the show. You know what I mean? Something like, how much of a democracy is given, insert given country here, how much power do the people actually have? And the stuff we have to get out of the way immediately is there's a grain of truth to this genre of belief and accusation. It's just the specifics where things get sticky. Does that sound fair?
Well, yeah, we look around and we see that society, no matter where you live, is built around the people that control things. And then you realize, oh, wait, a lot of the people who are really important have these like social clubs that they hang out at. Oh, wait, a lot of these really important people go to these fancy restaurants that I and my family can't get into. And you just start to see it and you start to feel, wow, maybe there is something bigger to this.
Well, you guys too. I mean, talking about the little secret kind of societies and social clubs and all that. But what about colleges? Mm-hmm. Think about that. That's one of the biggest social clubs of all that are very exclusive and hard to get into and have kind of legacy histories of acceptance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And dynasties within families because of those colleges, because of all those social positionings.
Yeah. The simple sociological answer would be that people, despite what people say, they like to hang out with other people like them. You hang out with people that you share things in common with or that you believe you will share things in common with. However, that answer is kind of boring to a lot of other folks, so they want more to the story. This is where we hear people accusing, wealthy dynasties like the House of Saud or the Rockefellers of being a true global power behind the throne. And the argument is almost ancient aliens in its prejudice, because it's like this particular group of families couldn't have been successful on their own. They have to have some sort of diabolical secret. They worship infernal powers, or they are aliens, or time travelers,
perhaps,
or all the racist stuff I thought earlier was right.
100%, man.
Yeah, but when in reality, I guess it's just the resources that members of their family extracted a long time ago and then built wealth on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Name, it's possible to name one self-made billionaire, but name six.
Gosh,
name just six who did it on their own.
I'm hard pressed for one. I'm sure you have one in mind.
I'm making room for the 4 billionaires who listen to our show.
Yeah, call in. Let us know. Can we borrow some money?
Yes, have your footman and your valet call it. Or better yet, write us an email so we can get it on record.
It is still weird, though, because power behind the throne is kind of a thing when you think about campaign finance donations.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There is a grain of truth. There are secret kingmakers. And campaign finance donations, saw the news about that, right? Very recently, a very small group of billionaires recently donated some $600 million to the current campaign cycle.
And that's all thanks to Citizens United, which totally wrecked the campaign finance system for all intents and purposes. Like just mangled it beyond recognition and saving.
Yeah. And international non-governmental institutions, the Bilderbergers, the CFR, insert your favorite corporate conspiracy here.
Guys, whenever you hear Bilderberger, am I the only one who pictures a bar where you can make your own hamburger, and pick whatever, toppings you want? A Bilderberger. It's like a Build-A-Bear.
It's the Bilderbergs, right?
No, it's a little different.
But I hear you.
People are saying, this Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, Trilateral Commission, that's another deep cut. The question then is, why do all these powerful people really get together? What do they actually talk about in their meetings? Do they build fast food? Do they say more than what they publish in their PR statements for we, the lowly peasants?
How's their golf swing?
Yeah, I mean, what do they really get into at Davos? And, over the years, guys, we've seen versions of this. I seem to recall a time when I want to say it was Hillary Clinton when she was on the campaign trail in, years and years ago, where she gave a public speech, a more public speech that was filmed. And then there was footage from another meeting from that same day with the higher ups in the campaign world. And she said a completely different story. And it was allegedly leaked footage. But that's the kind of thing that perhaps we imagine happens all the time. And perhaps it does, but we often don't have proof that it's happening.
But you love to see it. That's the umami, I mean, it's true. I love you're bringing up Davos because security at Davos is super tight and super weird because global VIPs are there. Bohemian Grove, kind of tough to get into, and they're up to some strange stuff. So it's natural to ask these questions. We see powerful religious organizations got the same accusations back in the day. There was an anti-papist party here in the United States. Their political platform was just this one thing. They didn't like Catholics or the Pope. And they ran for office on that. And someone would be like, well, what do you think about taxes? And they would be like, I don't know, man, something screwy with the Pope, though. And they're like, oh, all right, I'll vote for you.
Yeah. Well, there's the anti-Masons party that was huge. And they're just their whole platform was, let's not have members of the secret society be in government positions.
Yeah. Let's try a new flavor this season, y'all. Come on.
Exactly.
Give the rest of us a chance.
And then more modern conspiratorial cabal theories, there are investment firms, right? Consulting firms. I think there's some sand to those. The defense industry, there's also some sand to those because in those cases you can follow the money. But it's also even institutions that are open about what they're supposed to do or that seem to be doing good things like the United Nations or the Red Cross or the Red Crescent, they get accused of being shadowy cabals. I mean, and yes, the Red Cross is very oriented toward the extraction and distribution of blood. I get it.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes water. Sometimes people need water. They hook people up.
It's not just the Red Cross. It's not just blood.
There you go. Perfect. Oh, my God. Guys, I just quickly in this thread here, we got a message from Rob, who is somebody who's written into us a couple times we've mentioned on listener mail, telling us a story about an organization his mother was a part of that I'd never heard of before. And I think we need to do a whole episode on it because it kind of matches in with all this stuff we're talking about. It's called Job's Daughters, JOB''S daughters, not spelled like, gob. But it's an offshoot of Freemasonry, and it is fascinating and huge and powerful. And it, again, on the surface, seems like a great thing, but they've got like a supreme guardian council and all kinds of the umami you're talking about, Ben, all the things that are just like, ooh, this is an exciting secret society. We should cover it at some point.
Yeah, Rob, write us an email. Would love to learn more. I get it. Yes, that is new to me. But I like the vibe. Is it like a Gilead type thing?
No, it's about placing the women who are, or it's girls who join, almost like a Girl Scouts kind of thing, but within the Freemasonry kind of
it's like
world.
Order of Eastern Star kind of.
Yeah, but it is, and it seems really good on the surface, but man, it's deep.
Oh man! All right, I love it, and we're on it. Another, of course, this cabal, conspiracy cabal, it all funnels into one general milieu, which is that rich and powerful people overall are up to something heinous. And the vast majority of people are affected by it with no control over what it means. And each of these ideas, these subgenres, they come from their own set of perspectives and prejudice and concern. I mean, yeah, the Rockefeller banking dynasty, can't even call it banking dynasty anymore. They're very well off. They have global concerns. But a lot of times when people are talking trash about the Rockefellers, they ultimately are dog whistling some pretty racist stuff. You know what I mean? In like paragraph 4, because they don't think people read past the headline.
Which many don't.
Well, and it's, I was going to say it's really unfortunate that even thinking about this stuff, at least for me, I don't know about you guys, makes me feel like I'm verging into that territory, right? Towards the racism and grouping of people, even though it's really just a theoretical imagining, I guess, of what the potential motivations are behind actual powerful people.
With the exception of the Welsh.
But yeah, but
we don't talk about the Welsh.
They know what they did.
I guess what I mean is it stinks that that's the thing that gets talked about and thought about when you're just even contemplating motivations of just wealthy human beings,
because it's an absence of transparency, right? So the speculation thrives. I mean, and also, yes, the defense industry is crooked. It's as crooked as a cursive letter Z, but war profiteers from the ancient times to now have always been pretty upfront about their primary motivation. They just want to make money.
Mm-hmm. Just some money. And
just money.
Explosions are cool.
Explosions are technically
cool. Objectively pretty cool.
Yeah. True. We had the immense privilege of befriending the world's #1 expert on underwater explosions.
Such a specific field. Yeah. I love it.
In a different show. And that is a thing. That's amazing. But to date, nobody has been able to conclusively prove one of their pet conspiratorial cabal actually runs the world. Truth is unfortunately a little more complicated. We talked about in the past, there does not seem to be a single group of powerful people successfully running the entire world. There are multiple groups of powerful people who kind of run parts of the world, and every single one of these groups is also pretty sure the world would be better if they were the only people in charge of the entire thing. These folks don't always get along. They kind of hate each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys been following this thing with like the tariffs on Chinese imports that we're imposing? Like, that's interesting because like we're so beholden to China, but we also low-key hate them and resent them. And, Biden talking about like, well, Americans can do any job that the Chinese can if the playing field is level. All of those low-key little snipey negotiations are kind of what keep things from getting into a hot war situation, right? But we're always just a couple of clicks away from that if you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's no coincidence that those kind of what we call bellicose signals occur at the same time Uncle G and our buddy Vlad just had some public pinky swears. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's so easy. I love your pointing that out. It's so easy to make our Charlie Day conspiracy board because real things are happening. But I guess we're always trying to answer that question. Why do some people always seem to have more while others have less? Why do some groups seem to profit no matter who wins the given war? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Why?
Because of the petrodollar, obviously.
Tight.
Is that a meme coin? Is that crypto? What are we?
It's kind of like the original crypto.
It kind of is, isn't it? I'm joking, but you're absolutely right, Ben.
You can only trade in my currency.
Shout out to Nixon. Yeah.
My Navy's huge. Wait a second. Wait, who could we be thinking about here?
Bro, you're so naval right now. That's what they said. But yeah, this is our question tonight, folks. If there's really some secret cabal pulling the strings, why does civilization still kind of stink?
They're doing
right?
a job, aren't they?
Yeah, like if you're in charge, do better. Why is human civilization riddled with instability, destruction, evil? What sort of group would allow these things to occur? If this group exists, is it even human? That's the root of an episode that has taken us way too long to get to. I think we'll have fun with this one, the Reptilian Conspiracy. Here's where it gets crazy. All right, let's just freestyle on this one, guys.
Okay.
What is the Reptilian Conspiracy?
It's the conspiracy that it makes all of the terrible stuff that's happening make sense, guys. What if the motivation for the groups that do control the world are about dividing everybody and making us all fight and destroying everything and even destroying the climate and the planet because they want to take over?
Just like Sheryl Crow said.
What did
Is that what she said?
What did she say?
Think about it. Read the lyrics.
Which one?
Until the sun comes up over Santa Monica Boulevard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Or what if the sun never comes back up over Santa Monica Boulevard because the reptilians
but I'm being
made
serious.
it so?
The reptilian conspiracy, at least from my perspective, is a proposed answer to why everything seems so messed up and why there's such division in the world and has been. Because
the forces ruling the world are fundamentally different. The forces ruling the world are indeed inhuman. I think that's at the heart of this. If you look at the headline of it, the idea is they're going to hit you with a couple of base assumptions. We just have to go with those assumptions to understand the argument. One, extraterrestrials exist and they have been in contact with Earth for a long, long time. Two, they are reptilian. There are other kinds of aliens in this theory, but the ones you have to watch out for are the reptilians. Three, it's tough to watch out for them because they have interbred with human beings and they can shapeshift and they possibly have a bunch of other supernatural abilities, including telepathy. But the world still sucks.
I don't know, man. Given all of those abilities and their supposed infiltration, are they just playing the long game to mess with us, like a cat and mouse kind of situation? If they really wanted to wipe us out, couldn't they have just nuked us out of existence? Like, why take so long and be so protracted and cause so much long-term suffering instead of just getting it over with? Doesn't seem very efficient, is what I'm getting at.
It does. It does seem to beggar explanation, right? Because the idea that they are super into, although they have this immense power, they're still super into secrecy. They have not publicly stated, hey, aliens are real, we're part alien, we control the world, we've got a big weird plan.
It's like that scene in The Witches by Roald Dahl, where behind the closed doors, that's when they take off their human masks. And only then can they let their lizard faces breathe a little bit. I think that's such a trope that you see all the time, this idea of imposters that go behind, in some sort of secret meeting and then reveal their true identity only to each other. But of course, there's an interloper, and that's the inciting action for the story.
Roald Dahl, amazing author. The Witches adaptation was really good too.
Very good. Very, very
super
scary.
Dark guy. Everybody check out George's Marvelous Medicine, by the way. Roald Dahl's best conspiracy book, I think.
And don't bother with the Witches remake. The original 90s Witches is where it's at.
I didn't know there was a remake.
It was a straight to HBO Max thing. It was not good. It was directed by somebody of note, actually, but it was very, very bad.
Right.
Anne Hathaway plays the Grand High Witch. You can't fill freaking Angelica Houston's square-toed shoes. You just can't do it.
There you go.
That's a sign of witchcraft.
Well, unless you're a shapeshifter, right? And
yes.
Then you probably could fill her shoes as well as her face and arms. Sorry.
No, dude. We're keeping it. But there's just one...
I think we're going to get into it, but one caveat there, just when we're talking about the extraterrestrial version of this theory, there are older and different theories where they're not necessarily some extraterrestrial race that traveled to Earth. Sometimes they're a race.
Lemurians.
There's a race that either goes back to Atlantis or Lemuria that is like older, like ancient version of the thing that humans became, right? That still control things, and they've been around for so long. We'll get into that. But just like these reptilians are other. I think that's the whole point, right? They're not human.
Right. And they could also be extra dimensional. Yeah. They could be ancient gods or the remnants thereof, right? It's kind of, again, like any good conspiratorial folklore, it's sort of the Chipotle line. You can add the avocado if you want.
Oh, man. It just occurred to me that the Neil Gaiman book, American Gods, has something in common with some of these thoughts, because the gods are on Earth affecting the outcome of civilization quietly and secretly. And then there are factions even within that where they're fighting against one another, you know,
exactly.
Because some people are more in support of humanity and some people are totally against humanity. There's this push and pull, which could answer the question of, is there an opposition force to the reptilians? Are there contingents within that are fighting against the evil aims of the overlords of this species?
Like in the miniseries documentary V.
V is so good. The old one holds up, man. There's a remake again, but the old one is good. It's good.
Well, it would stand to reason if they're not hive mind, right? Then there are probably factions within the group too.
Right. Mm-hmm. Different kinds of snakes too. So in the adaptation, you know, we'll make some of them look like king cobras, you know. We'll have like a wise monitor lizard who's got some sort of hot takes on economics or something.
Oh my God.
The bearded dragon that just sort of sits there ponderously.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I don't know which kind of reptile is our like comic relief, but folks, please find us the funniest reptile and send
Jar Jar Binks.
Oh
boy!
I was gonna say it's a swamp puppy. It's a cute little swamp puppy.
Swamp puppy.
That's what it looks like when it sees that you have a camera on it, right? So this, the idea to go back, Noel, you were mentioning this concept of this grand design. That's the thing. They're saying this argument says that every catastrophic event, every great disaster, every technological breakthrough, all the positive stuff too, can be traced back to this secret group of lizard folk, and we don't know why they're doing it. Their grand design seems pretty mysterious, but if you know what to look for, you can see their hidden hand in world events. It's an ancient conspiracy. There's also this concept that they were dropping hints the whole time. The truth was right under your nose, and reptiles don't understand it because they have a different kind of nose or whatever. But like the name of the star system they originate from, per David Icke, is Alpha Draconis. So they told us, and we just ignored it. It goes on and on. I mean, it's so great for fiction. X-Files, we named V. They Live. I can't believe you haven't seen They Live.
I'm very familiar with it. I've seen clips. I'm a huge John Carpenter fan. It was actually playing at my favorite little kind of indie movie theater in New York when I was there a few months ago. I didn't make it, but I plan on it. I also another lizard-ish kind of cult movie that Roddy Piper is also in. Hell Comes to Frogtown. Oh, snap. You guys got the day glasses on.
Sorry.
I see you. Have you guys heard of Hell Comes to Frogtown?
No.
I have, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, Roddy Piper plays a dude named something like Stephen Hell, and he fights against these frog people that have kind of kidnapped some, I believe, Vestal virgins who are the only chance for repopulating humanity.
Wow. Does he chew bubblegum and kick butt, and he's out of bubblegum?
I think that's right. Yeah. That sounds like something that Roddy would do.
That literally is something that he would do. Also, while we're on the fiction note, we have to say this informs or is occurring in step with a lot of cosmic horror fiction, like H.P. Lovecraft. The Hellboy comics and BPRD as well get really into the idea of an elder race, right? An ancient civilization. And this descends from theosophy. This, you know what? Let's
the
walk
Fifth
back.
Element too.
Yeah,
big time.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, the Mass Effect series, but it's a little different. It's more machine
but we still
than reptile.
we can see these threads, you know what I mean? Like the monsters in They Live are not necessarily reptilian, but everything else about it just checks the boxes of this theory. It becomes very big in the public sphere in recent decades. A guy who gets a lot of credit for this is a guy we interviewed back in the day named David Icke. In 1998, he wrote a book called The Biggest Secret, and he laid out, like Moses coming down with some weird paperback tablets. He laid out the rules of the modern lizard people conspiracy. He says everything we said before, and then he also says, as a matter of fact, many of the great historical and modern leaders, your favorite ones, are half reptile and half human.
Yeah, let's just say that he is, what do you say, Ben, 10 toes down on this stuff? Like he fully... But this is very real to David. I don't know. Didn't we talk to him? Hadn't he sort of softened on some of this a little bit, or was he still all in? I kind of can't remember.
Well,
he had some problematic issues too as a dude.
He did. He's such a complicated person in my mind, because to him, at least to my estimation, I don't know about you guys, but he seems to truly and fully believe that he experienced something out in the desert that he felt was real, that was a message about this very stuff, about apocalypse, about what's coming and why.
He genuinely, in my estimation, yes, problematic to a great degree, but in speaking with him and then reading his books, I think he genuinely believes it. Like, I don't think he sees himself as trying to con people.
That's at least where my mind goes when I think about the way he spoke and what he spoke about. And then, but since 1998, his career is about, selling books now and writing a ton of more things.
And the lecture circuit.
And each one of those has to expand a little bit, right, on all the things before, just if you think about it from a business perspective, right? You can't just write the same thing over and over and over again in like 18 different books. So he's almost, I'm just trying to see the human part of it, right? He's kind of forced to expand on all that stuff. And then a lot of the theories and the ideas that are in his books seem to be traced back to super problematic things, even though what he's saying in his books actually aren't that problematic on the surface until you realize maybe the originating place of them.
Which he may
eugenics-y kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, which he may not be aware of. He also told us that his views had been mischaracterized. Mm-hmm. And I think in that conversation, read back some of his own quotes to him.
Yeah,
that he wrote. So this is a whole other bag of badgers. It's funny because to that point about expansion, the list of people who are lizard people does continue to grow. The British royal family, of course, they had to be in there, right? Business tycoons, your favorite modern presidents,
your boy George Washington, BFF,
George Washington,
friend of the show.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
I have a quick question, guys. If this is the case, and if history has been populated with all of these influential figures who are in fact lizard people, we talked about the idea of interbreeding. Over a long enough timeline, wouldn't there be more lizard people than actual people, given the prominence and power of some of these high-ranking individuals?
It's a recessive trait, just like controlling dragons in Song of Ice and Fire. Right?
Got it.
That's why all the ancient Egyptians and old European dynasties were banging each other. That's why the cousins were.
I think they were just bored. Cousining. There wasn't anything else to do.
Well, when it goes wrong, you get a Habsburg. When it goes right, you get like a lizard person.
Well, it is really interesting how obsessed royal families just over the span of human civilization have, the way they've been obsessed with bloodlines, right?
Yeah.
And
how else would you rationalize such a absurd government system?
Yeah,
you would have to think you're inherently better than the people that you're taking advantage of.
Or you have to be touched by God, or in this case by the whatever. What do we call it? The line of reptilian DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. But this is a good point, though. We've talked about this a lot, where when a conspiracy becomes popular enough and it becomes this morphing thing because everybody now has input, right? And can like add to the thing.
Telephone,
just when we're talking
Exquisite
about
corpse.
Well, yeah, when we're talking about the list and how it's grown, because kind of everybody gets to add people in there, and then it could just expand and expand and expand.
Then why aren't there more Welsh people on the list? See, I'm bringing this back. I'm just going to see how far we can go with fake prejudice.
This is a safe space.
It's a safe space to tell the truth about the Welsh.
Well, you know,
it's too many F's, Noel. They have too many F's.
They
in the
do
language.
have a lot of F's. Those words are nigh unpronounceable. I do wonder, though, if you guys thought about the idea of connecting this theory to a recent episode we did, and you could sub in lizard person for Antichrist.
Oh, yeah.
In some senses.
Very much so. Yes. Yeah. And that's an astute observation. And, you know, one of my favorite examples of the list of lizard people is Bob Hope.
Oh, no, not Bob Hope.
I have an autographed picture from Bob Hope, so I may have evidence of a lizard person. I'll have to see. It's one of those things that comes with a letter that says dictated but not read.
Oh, no.
And he signed it.
That's so old school. That's like what they would do with fan mail, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it very much was. A story for another day, but maybe we do have proof of lizard people. Per Icke, we might. But that, you know, for some of us who are just getting read on to this theory, it can be kind of disappointing. You might say, hey, what gives? What about all those old school shadowy cabals that I used to believe in? What about the Illuminati? We mentioned that at the top. What about the Freemasons? David Icke shakes his head and says, these are all basically conspiracy middle management. Each organization was created and deployed by the lizard people, yet another series of steps in their unknowable grand design. There is no spoon. Right?
Yeah. Think about organizations like Freemasons and a lot of these clubs. Go back to the Bavarian Illuminati. It's an invite only. It really didn't have anything to do with your blood at all. Though if your grandfather was a Freemason, that's a big plus. If you're trying to get into that organization,
everybody loves a legacy hire.
That's true, but you don't have. But you don't have. But you don't have to have that connection to join that group. You could just be interested in join. So, like this concept within the theory that it's middle management, right? It's almost like humans serving this other group.
Yes, yeah, sort of the overseer class, right? But this also, before we lose this point with Icke, you could argue that what he's doing, more skeptical people would argue that he's kind of soloing folklore at this point. You know, he's kind of adding his own, and other people are taking it and running with it as well. The same way that the Cthulhu mythos started with H.P. Lovecraft and expanded to other authors.
Well, and inevitably, when you look at something like that, and someone who like Icke, who's motivated by publishing dollars and continuing to have that output, you're probably going to see some inconsistencies. As he starts building and sort of talking till he gets an idea. You know what I mean?
Talking till he gets an idea. Yeah.
But when you, I guess if you buy in to the theory, right? Early on, let's say you read The Biggest Secret, right? And you buy into this concept and you keep going down that rabbit hole. You buy into the idea that he was given or divined some message, right? It's not for your perspective. If you're in it, you're not seeing the pulling in of all the different theories and all the different ideas that then shape the big theory. You imagine that's the message that was received, right? So all of this is in some way, some divinely inspired, let's say.
Right. So in that case, the person through whom you learn these things is not themselves the author.
Exactly.
They're a prophet. They're a platform. They are a medium. And this is also a clever way to get out of trouble if you say the wrong thing.
And we're going to see it repeated as we follow the trail back in time.
Yeah, multiple times. He has given lectures to over 6,000 people at a go. That's better than live shows that we have done so far. But there's always more to the story. And before we make conclusions about this theory, before we throw it all out with the reptilian bathwater, we do have to think of it as folklore. And when we think of it as folklore, we'll find that just like the Nazi fantasies about secret vril energy and hyperborea, which also shows up in Hellboy, we'll find that this could be a case of fiction gone wrong, because the idea of lizard people dates way back before David Icke's book. Like, Conan the Barbarian as lizard people, and rips that off from the Theosophists, the spiritualist movement. But the author of Conan did say it was fiction, so kudos to him.
Well, I mean, guys, I think like a lot of folklore, I feel like this whole framework is best served as kind of a very interesting metaphor for the way power is corrupting and the way power is spread and manipulated from the shadows. And the idea of there being this boogeyman, I think is almost, you can read it almost more as like a parable than it is an actual facts thing that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we stick on Conan just a bit? I
Please, I always want to stick on Conan. He is a smoke show.
Well, I just didn't expect that guy to become such a popular late night talk show host, like a writer.
He's a redhead, first of all,
SNL.
probably a lizard person.
How can you, we'll take the quiz at the end. I've got a surprise for us, but yeah, how can you explain his success?
Right?
Surely he couldn't just be hardworking and good at his job.
I know, and just hilarious and creative, whatever.
Wait a minute. We're talking about two different Conans here.
They're both barbarians. Make no mistake.
Both mega ripped, too.
Have you seen his travel show? He has a new travel show.
Wonderful. He's just a delight.
It's fabulous.
Yeah. He's secretly mega ripped. Absolutely top-notch
Because
physique.
I'm picturing now an Arnold Schwarzenegger as Conan the Barbarian in a YouTube travel show. You know what I mean?
Wouldn't that be wonderful? Yeah. But you're talking about Conan. This would have been early days, like Golden Age comics. Conan?
1920s.
Yeah.
So the author, Robert E. Howard, who originates Conan the Barbarian, has a short story called The Shadow Kingdom. And by the way, all of the graphic novel or comic book adaptations of Conan the Barbarian are pretty great reads if you're into this stuff. So he goes back most likely to another controversial figure, sort of a David Icke of her day, called Helena Blavatsky. And in 1888 or so, she writes a book she collects some lectures and things she had said previously about the idea, something you referred to earlier, Matt, the idea that there are lizard people who are part of an ancient civilization that was once more advanced than humanity, but met with great peril and disaster. Atlantis or Lemuria sinks. Howard has this story in the Shadow Kingdom wherein Conan the Barbarian runs into these serpent men, which are pretty much beat for beat the dragon men from the Secret Doctrine and the other stories that Blavatsky took from. And surprise, Conan, the serpent people are bad. They're pills.
Yeah. Well, but it really does influence the way reptilians are spoken about, the powers that they allegedly have, and the other parts of the theory, their motivations even. So within Howard's story, you meet this guy named Kull, Kull, who's like a barbarian who takes...
Not to be confused with Krull, right?
No.
Isn't that Krull also kind of a thing, though? Wasn't it?
Yes, it's a sci-fi thing.
And it's awesome.
That's what I thought.
Some of my weirdest childhood memories come from watching that show, and it got mixed up in my head in weird ways. It's a weird movie.
It was such an interesting film. Is this the one where they have the huge throwing star?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like a weird sea anemone, or rather like a what do you call it? Like a starfish kind of. Almost. Yeah.
Krull also probably calls back to this stuff. Matt, where you're going here makes sense to me, right? Kull the Barbarian. So Conan meets a colleague would be the children's story.
Kind of. But Kull, he's this dude from Atlanta, he's from Atlantis. He's a barbarian, and he conquers this other place, right? Mm-hmm. Once he goes in, he conquers this place, takes over. I'm king now, and he's going to bed in the palace. And he gets contacted by this other group of people, and basically he finds out, or he's shown by another one of the characters in the story, that all of the guards in this palace are still there. Everybody looks like they're still on guard, but he's shown that the actual guards have been knocked out, and their bodies are like in other rooms. And he's like, what the hell's going on? And he is told that this group of people, these serpent men, have shapeshifted to look like all the guards and are all in place. And then a counselor comes in who is also a shapeshifting reptilian creature, attempts to assassinate him. And it's really interesting because it goes back to operating in secret, right? Conspiratorially, replacing people to look as though it's someone you would trust. All of these like concepts of what a serpent man is, as described by Howard in this story, you can follow that trail. And when you take it back to Blavatsky, it's really, dude, it gets super in the weeds. I don't mean to get in the weeds here, but the great dragon.
Bro, we live in the weeds. That's where we are.
Dude, she describes the great dragon and the serpents of wisdom, which it goes back to the way she describes, I think it's 5 races of like humanoids that have existed throughout time.
And she's ripping off a lot of ancient myths from the Indian subcontinent. And we do have to get in front of some emails. Please still email us. Again, pictures of the funniest reptile. We need the comic relief for this film, but we do have to say an important point here, just to be clear. Kull is sort of Conan's colleague, but Kull is like the Duplo to the Lego that is Conan the Barbarian. So Kull is an earlier thing that is basically Conan the Barbarian, arguably a bit smarter, written by the same author, and then later he goes to Conan. Oh. And then Conan has pretty much the same adventures.
So it's not a Superman, Captain Marvel kind of like rivalry thing. This is actually the same individual that's created both of these characters.
Yeah, and just kept creating the same character. Kind of like when a director just has the one franchise.
Yeah, like Transformers or whatever. Oh, by the way, funniest lizard or reptile, I would argue the gecko.
Oh, wow.
Gecko would be great comic relief, just saying.
One last thing.
Shape-shifting, right?
Yeah, one last thing. Not just shape-shifting, but magic. Like ancient technological magic. Like that thing where it's between magic and technology. They are able to do things like make you believe you're walking into one area or one room when you're actually somewhere else. Almost like, what is that? It's like the Jedi mind trick kind of thing.
Yeah.
Causing an illusion in your own mind.
Illusionist. They also are seen as these gatekeepers of wisdom. And again, this is ancient folklore. This goes back to the first time people started peopling and someone got bit by a snake and said, I learned something.
Snake bad. Oh, there we go. What's up with all of this anti-reptile rhetoric, guys?
We'll get to it. Yeah.
So I mean, some of it's for good reason, but there are other creatures what bite.
We also see another commonality. The modern lizard folk are thought to be the ones that you see that look human are sort of the ones that have stronger human genes or are better at shape-shifting. And the rest of the lizard people live underground in secret bases, and you can't tell anybody, and they're still pissed at humans for some reason. And
one day they will rise.
Right.
They will rise.
They will rise when it's warm enough outside, maybe in the afternoon.
You got to heat the planet up, bro.
That's it. That's what he is about to. Spoilers. We also have to thank political science professor Michael Barkun, who has a good look at Icke's theories and traces back this Blavatsky, E. Howard origin. And we could stop there. Right? We could say, okay, this is provably Pulp Fiction. It's Vril gone wrong, right? That's another comparison. But we can't be satisfied with originating that theory just in the 1880s because, Noel, you hit on something that I think gets us even deeper into the story. So what say we take a break for a word from our slithering sponsors and then see if we can come back to solve the mystery. Peek behind the curtain. Sometimes when we're recording, we'll give a message to future Paul, or we'll say, hey, future Paul, check this thing out. So future Paul, if you're listening, I'm sorry we haven't mentioned Opus Dei yet, because they also get lumped in with lizard people. So respect to that shadowy cabal.
Yeah, man. Again, it goes back to the Catholic Church feelings that people had.
Oh, there's supposed to be, as we record today, there is supposed to be a press conference by the actual Pope, by the actual facts Pope, on UFOs and supernatural
No way.
entities. Yes, wait.
I heard through the grapevine, guys, that we are being prepared not only by the U.S. government since 2017, but also by great religious leaders such as El Popo, that we are El Papa, that we are being prepared for full disclosure. Finally, after gosh, how many times have we talked about disclosure?
At this point, it's going to be anticlimactic. I feel like civilization has, can I say this on air? I feel like civilization has been edging on disclosure for so long.
Gooning, dare we say.
Yeah. What are we going to do if the Pope discloses reptilians the day we're recording our episode on reptilians?
We're going to have to ask, we're going to have to futz with our schedule and get this published as soon as possible.
Like today.
Yeah, we'll just have to ride the wave on that one.
I just want to see the Pope, come out on his little patio or whatever to address the people and just pull that human mask right off.
Oh, what if he did?
Wouldn't that be sick?
What if he comes out, he says, reptilians are real. I am the actual only member of the clergy who is still human.
and then
all the other ones take off their masks.
And they've got spears.
Throwing the glaives. Yeah, where's the Swiss Guard? This goes all the way to the top of the peaks of Switzerland. All right.
What if they have like laser guns?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I love it. What kind of smoke do they burn when they make that announcement? I do love the smoke signal thing. When they have the convocation. There we go. So why did this idea, there's so many shadowy secret cabal things. Why did this idea in particular get so much attention, gain so much steam? Yeah, there's human prejudice, but that applies to every single other secret group conspiracy we've talked about. Noel, you hit on something that I think resonates with all of us, which is we can't just explain it with human prejudice. We have to think about animal prejudice too. People hate and fear reptiles on a primal level, right? You see birds, depending on where you live, you see birds pretty often, right? You don't run away from them. But if you're walking by and you see a snake,
there was that time I ran away from the chicken because it was chasing me.
I've been in some situations with birds. I get it, but and geese are jerks, right? But generally, I would argue most people have a hardwired awareness and caution around reptiles. Like little lizards, I think get a pass from most people, but after a certain size, even the most harmless lizard is gonna give you pause.
Well, I think it's innate, right? I mean, it's certainly one of the more prevalent phobias. My mother was deathly afraid of snakes. You couldn't show her a rubber snake. You couldn't show her a beaded tapestry depicting a snake. Like seriously, it would freak her out to no end. And it's this primal fear that I think, comes from a legacy of, humans wanting to survive.
Evolution. Yeah. You bit me. I learned something. And so now reptiles are hierophants. Yeah.
Just want to put this out there, guys. I was a known and feared lizard hunter in parts of Clearwater, Florida, when I was a child. I had a net,
surprise me.
And I meant business.
What did the lizards call you?
Cole.
Did you set up shop?
They call you the Red
flea
market.
Yeah. No, but I would never kill them. They were just so awesome. I would hang out with them because they were amazing creatures.
Yeah. I had some I had some lizard situations too, man. I think snakes are always fascinating because they're one of the animals that if you just see it in the wild, because so many other successful animals have limbs and tarsals and metatarsals and phalanges and all that, and thumbs. Shout out to thumbs. When you see a snake that has none of those, you're just like, look at you, buddy. How'd you get here? What did you do today? What's the rest of your weekend like?
How are you a thing?
How are you a thing? Like what? It's like seeing a giraffe. It's like, I understand you're alive. I respect your right to exist, but also why and how? This, I think, we're right. Fear of lizards in particular is herpetophobia. Herpetophobia. And it does seem to be a programmed thing. Because if we go back pre-Blavatsky and pre the Secret Doctrine, we see, snakes showing up or reptiles showing up as givers of wisdom, givers of infernal danger and great decisions. Deceivers, right. Illusionist in so many different things. There's a great book with a really long name, From Eye of Newt and Toe of Frog, Adder's Fork and Lizard's Leg, The Lore and Mythology of Amphibians and Reptiles.
Amazing.
It's a very specific book.
From Eye of Newt and Toe of Frog, Adder's Fork and Lizard's Leg.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. It's got the cadence. And this author, Marty Crump, also talks about the reptilian conspiracy of today being related to the mythology of the Naga from India, half cobra, half human creatures. They were thought to be the originator of earthquakes and eruptions. They were great powers of the earth, which meant, now fast forward a little bit, play telephone, play folklore. We've got other reptilians who still control Earth. So it's an interesting evolution of a myth, if nothing else.
Yeah, it is. But we've talked about it before, guys. But if there was, time is long, right?
Time's kind of long. Yeah.
Earth's been around for a long time. There have been many iterations of creatures that have existed and then been wiped from the face of the earth. Over and over and over it has happened. Is it any wonder that we have these myths about this kind of thing? I don't know. It does make me wonder. I'm constantly wondering if there was some form of intelligent, maybe not to technological advancement stages or things like that, but a highly intelligent reptile of some sort that existed in an era way before ours that left something behind that was found a long time ago, and it just created some kind of, spark of an idea.
Even early human or hominid encounters with reptiles that are a little bit too smart.
Yeah.
Right? Clever girl, they say.
Ooh, yeah.
Millions
or
of years ago.
R.I.P. Muldoon, wasn't that his name?
I don't know. Every time we're thinking about this, my brain goes to places that are just like, man, there's got to be something.
What was that conversation? Oh, everyone, fellow conspiracy realists, if you haven't listened yet, check out our episode on probably the best ancient civilization hypothesis, the Silurian hypothesis, right? Which is neck and neck with this. Or not, it's not a competition, not neck and neck.
Geck and Geck?
So, yeah, there we go. It's a Geck and Geck. I'm still learning English. I apologize. But there is no proven case of a human reptile hybrid now. Not one in all of history, unless it's a big cover up. There are things you could say are kind of like hybrids. Like we know reptiles existed that had some mammalian traits or seemed to be something that was kind of like a reptile, was kind of like a mammal. But those are basically extinct, or they're as wacky as the platypus, which just looks like such a scamp. You know what I mean? What's the platypus up to? What kind of, where's that?
Solving mysteries on Phineas and Ferb.
There it is. But none of those things look humanoid.
No.
That's the issue.
Yeah. Well, isn't that interesting too, that what an antithesis to humanity the reptile is, right? In terms of its blood works different, it needs different environments, it just has this scaly skin. Sometimes they have venom. They can regrow their own tails. There's just something uncanny and inhuman, to the extreme about reptiles.
I think they're super cool. To be honest.
They are.
They're also a potentially formidable opponent, right, to advancement of humans, right, or a real threat. The
idea being that if the dice had rolled a little bit differently, then the dominant role of apex predator or Homo sapien would have been played by something possibly reptilian. Which, they're the progenitors of the avians. They've been around for quite a long time, and science still has a lot to learn about reptiles. Really fascinating stuff. Reptiles do have emotions. It was a common stereotype that they did not. The ongoing debate is the depth to which they process those emotions, because they are, to that earlier point, so very different from mammal emotions. But I'm going to say, don't do this. Don't do it at home. But it is proven that people can befriend alligators, crocodiles.
Small puppies.
They're ancient swamp puppies. They're ancient creatures. They reached what they needed for evolution, and they've just been coasting on it. You know, humans are the new kids in the game, very much so. So, okay, you might be saying, we've definitely said it. You might be saying, this is neat folklore, right? But why does this matter today? Is it just because you guys are going to have fun talking about it? A, yes. But B, does it teach us something? Yes. That is, it also teaches something because in recent years here in the United States, when propagandists were weaponizing any kind of ideological gate they could find to get people to move the way these propagandists wished, they didn't spare the reptilian conspiracy. They got it onto the polls in parts of the United States. Like, I'm voting for this person because they're against lizard people. They get it. We finally have an honest comptroller in Southwestern District of Minnesota. That is a made-up example. All due respect to the great comptrollers of Southwestern Minnesota.
Yeah.
Very powerful cabal in their own right. But this, I mean, do you guys remember hearing about this? Like when people it was like the early 2010s?
I do not remember hearing about this. I remember yesterday when I was on Instagram and there were people making reels about reptilians and capturing something on camera at the Met Gala or something where somebody's eyes didn't look right. And it's definitely a confirmed reptile. And it had hundreds of thousands of plays and thousands of shares and comments. And it's like right now. But back then, what was going on?
Oh, there's a great Vox article by journalist Alex Abad Santos in 2015. This writer noted there could be real world consequences when we confuse good stories with facts, and especially when it gets weaponized, right, by the students of Bernays, or I should say the disciples thereof. And the article is a must read. It's really good. It's from 2015, but it holds up today and pointed out some polling that I had no idea existed.
Oh, this is fascinating. Yeah, it really did blow my mind as well. To quote, back in April of 2013, Public Policy Polling conducted a poll about conspiracy theories like aliens and imposter Paul McCartney, and of course, lizard people. And the polling organization found that 4% of Americans believe in lizard people, while another 7% were unsure. Ask me later. Taken to its absurd extreme, that would imply around 12 million Americans
heard the phrase lizard people and said, yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, someone's asking the real questions.
I'm going back to movies from 2013, guys, just to like see what's in the popular mind around that time.
Yeah.
It was top at the box office.
Well, I mean, there's interesting stuff when you look at some of the science fiction. That movie Dark Skies came out that didn't get a ton of, show, I guess. There was a movie about one of Jupiter's moons called The Europa Report. That's when After Earth came out. Remember that one with Will Smith?
Oh, no, Will Smith. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't it Will Smith's kid?
Yeah. Oh, yes. And isn't Will Smith in it too? Maybe not.
Maybe so.
I can't remember. But like just some
Ender's
of those
Game came out that year.
Yep.
Oh my God, you guys! This is a deep cut, and I hope you guys have seen this. It's a Villeneuve film called Enemy, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. That movie is entirely about it's not reptiles, it's more arachnid, but it's definitely there's something going on with humanity that this one guy is trying to get to the bottom of. It's a very Lynchian art film, but absolutely doppelganger, freaky city. I highly recommend Enemy.
That's also the year Snowpiercer was like remade in an American version. There's the Pacific Rim came out that year. Just this, there's a lot of thought going into maybe conspiratorial things up some group above that.
Monsters University,
conspiratorial cosmic horror sci-fi.
World War Z. Somebody had plans or whatever to take over.
Yeah, and we see that this is in the zeitgeist. 12 million Americans is a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not the biggest demographic in all of the pie slices of the United States, but it's huge. And you can easily find that David Icke's work in particular has ardent proponents, not satirical proponents, but ardent believers in well over 45 countries, right? Something about this idea seems to resonate with people. And this is the same reason that works like The Secret Doctrine and the myths that got kind of plagiarized to make that book. There's a reason they were all so popular in their day.
Oh, yeah. Quickly, guys, some of the myths that are a part of The Secret Doctrine, specifically the second book in that series, because she only wrote 2. There's a third one that's written by somebody else, and then a fourth one that's like a compendium of all of them.
It becomes kind of like Lovecraftian mythos again, when the authors pass around the story and add their own avocado to the thing.
Oh, yeah. And like you said, it goes back to other myths, right? But then Blavatsky's another person who said she read this one book and she was doing meditations, and she was, again, almost a message was being channeled through her that becomes what is known as the Secret Doctrine. But in that, there is this concept that these serpents of wisdom, these great dragons, whatever all this stuff is, they are a group of some form of creature that uses serpents to describe them, right? That live underground. They live in subterranean areas, at least according to Blavatsky and whatever whatever information she's going on. They live underneath some type of pyramidal structures. So if we blow this out, imagine this concept, right? Think about the ancient pyramids that exist across the planet. Like literally in every continent, there are pyramidal structures.
Or just mountains that look like pyramids.
Well, yeah, but in many cases they are
like
made creations,
by something.
Man-made structures. This concept that, this is where I was taking it, guys. This concept that there was some ancient humanoid creatures that were very smart and intelligent that survived whatever apocalypse occurred by going underground, and the humans either created these pyramid structures to keep them down there, or to whatever it is, to protect themselves from these creatures, right? Then I imagined all of the ultra wealthy people that exist now that will survive whatever apocalypse comes that we're going to experience at some point in the next several thousand years, because, it's time again for another one of those. They may be the only humanoids, quote unquote, that survive because they go underground again. And it just made me think about, well, if there was some type of intelligent reptilian thing that survived the last great destruction, that would probably be how they would do it.
And probably be maritime. There's a great book. What's his name? Neil Stevenson. It's called Seven Eves. It's never going to be adapted, but it absolutely should. It struggles with that same question, like who survives in a world-ending event. This is just how weirdly high stakes the book is. The first sentence is something like, all at once, for no reason, the moon blew apart. And then it talks about how fragments of the moon fall down to Earth, and people, enormously wealthy people, governments, religious leaders, all try to survive and figure out where they would go. So I think this is, I've derailed us. This is just an excuse for me to talk about how I love that friggin' book.
Well, it's just a thought experiment, right? I guess is what I'm saying. Like all of that stuff, even that's included in the Secret Doctrine, to me sounds like a thought experiment that is interesting to apply to the future rather than even back then.
Because this is another thing. I'm glad you're bringing that up. We have to be careful when we're saying there is not objective proof about something, because if we are interrogating this in the realm of folklore, then we have to realize the important thing is it's meant to teach us a lesson, something to take with us when situations like this occur, right? The specific characteristics of a boogeyman in the woods might not be real, but it does teach you the woods are dangerous. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily malevolent or grifting. I mean, it also shows us these ideas do not have to be true to have real world effects. And a lot of times, especially when this was kind of weaponized in US elections, the people who are weaponizing these stories and trying to get you to do stuff, they don't care whether or not the story is true. It's just an ideological door to get you to move in footstep with what they actually want. Whatever that real conspiracy may be, that's the thing we have to pay attention to. Not what the right hand is waving, but what the left hand is holding behind its back. I'm getting too weird with the similes and analogies. I don't know. Maybe I'm becoming a lizard person. Do you guys ever wonder if you're
You have
lizard
definitely
people?
become strange. That is for
I've
sure.
become strange. Yes. I should have just texted you that instead of saying I couldn't make it to hang out. I should have just said I've become strange.
Oh, you're right. We got to bring that back.
No,
No,
but-
I don't know, man. I stand. I really appreciate you consistently referring to this as folkloric. In nature, we feel that way in terms of a lot of these kinds of stories. Whether there's a grain of truth to them or not, the life that they take on beyond whatever that grain is ends up becoming the thing that captures people's imaginations. But I really like the idea of this as kind of a parable for how power is kind of manifested, and passed on, and just this need to believe that there's some nefarious force other than just the nefarious forces inherent in being a human that are causing the bad things to happen to us in the world. I think it's natural to want to, blame something on that is outside of ourselves. But at the end of the day, I think people are just as capable of evil stuff as weird alien reptiles.
Well, it almost speaks to the desire of power as being some infectious thing that's handed down that isn't actually
Exactly.
a part of what we are or could be or should be, right? Just the desire to seize power and then hold it is outside of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's this, there's one thing we have to end on, before we get to it, the penultimate thing. If you're wondering, am I a lizard person? With thanks to the journalist Philip Bump, we've got an example of a quick quiz you can give yourself. And Matt, Noel, we're playing with this a little bit off air. Would you be comfortable giving your answers to this brief quiz?
Absolutely.
All right. Here is a list of clues that you or someone you know may be a lizard person. Do they or you have, number one, green eyes?
I do not.
Does Hazel count?
Isn't Hazel kind of green?
I'm going to put it as a 0.5.
Okay. Fair. Half a point for you.
I'm the wrong person to ask, unfortunately. No, is eyes green or not?
Okay, check.
Green eyes. All
Green
right.
eyes.
I'll have to put it in the file. I didn't know. Number two, do you have good eyesight or hearing?
Excellent eyesight and hearing. Yes.
Terrible eyesight, good hearing.
All right. Well, I'm putting you both as a yes for that one. Three,
Great.
red hair.
God,
Crap.
You know what's funny? I did used to have some red in my beard, which has since turned white. But for a time, I had a little red streak in my beard. Can I get a 0.5 on that one, Ben?
Yes. You've got a 0.5.
I'll take a 1.5.
Yeah.
This is my favorite one, by the way. The next one is it's so pointed.
Do you have a sense of not belonging to the human race?
Absolutely.
Damn it.
I mean,
question.
who would want to be in that club? You know what I mean? I don't blame you. Okay. 5, unexplained scars on the body. Or are you just not cool?
I got a couple of weird ones.
I feel like it's normal to have unexplained scars on your body.
Do we remember every time we got a boo-boo when we were a little kid?
Is that like regenerated limbs and stuff? Is that what we're talking about?
I was trying to find, I was going through Mysteries of the Unknown, fantastic series, available on eBay, I guess. And I was trying to find a longer quiz that had questions like, do you find yourself fascinated by thunderstorms? Who is not fascinated by thunderstorms? I mean,
Can you
dogs.
lick your own eyeball?
Do you
Right,
prefer the taste of small rodents?
Yes.
Do you have extra vertebrae? Was one of the things, and
Just a couple here.
just a couple.
Wait, is that really a thing?
That's one of the things. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Check. Okay,
Yeah.
next.
Okay.
Are you
and
double
it is common.
jointed?
It is common to have extra vertebrae.
Yeah.
Do you have? Some of these are such BS. Do you have a love of space?
Oh,
Hell
boy,
yeah.
do I ever.
I know a couple people who actually hate space, and I think that's such an interesting perspective.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, it's terrifying, but it's awesome,
Well, they're rightly saying maybe we should fix Earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have
What's
problems
space
at
going to do
home.
for me?
Yeah.
What's space ever done for me?
Well, they're like, we have problems at home. Why are we trying to make problems in orbit? You know?
I mean, technically, space holds our planet up.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form.
7, do you have low blood pressure?
Yeah.
I think so. Sometimes. I
Holy
think my blood
smokes.
pressure is normal. Let me pull
Holy
up my
smokes.
charts. 1 second.
That's our big takeaway. We're not debunking the reptilian conspiracy. Fellow conspiracy realists, we're telling you, it could be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even you. If you are a
Especially you.
lizard person, please, please, please contact us right in. And if you are a lizard person hearing this, just to be completely clear, we will sell out immediately. Just get in touch with us. We're on your side. Team Lizard, let us know. You know, get us in the pyramid.
We know which side our bread is buttered.
Or are you
The
team
lizardy side.
Yeah. Or are you team Nordic? That's a whole other type of alien. Tell us
that was
about
a little Nazi for me.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah,
A little bit.
But all jokes and truths disguised as jest aside, we would love to hear from you folks. We try to be easy to find online.
Oh, we try. We like to think we succeed. You can reach out to us via our handle, Conspiracy Stuff, on a myriad of social media platforms of note, including Facebook, where we have our Facebook group. Here's where it gets crazy. YouTube, where we've got video content rolling out every single week, and X, FKA Twitter, where things also happen. On Instagram and TikTok, we're Conspiracy Stuff Show.
Hey, we have a phone number, 1-833-STDWYTK. Call in and tell us that we forgot to talk about the 2013 movie Elysium. Sorry about that. You can say anything you want when you call in. Give yourself a cool nickname and let us know if we can use your name and message on the air. If you've got more to say than can fit in that message, why not instead send us a good old-fashioned email? We are
The folks or entities who read every single email we get, be well aware, folks, sometimes the void writes back. And as a matter of fact, we owe some of you some emails. So, so check on it. And while you're checking, drop us a picture of our, of the funniest reptile, whatever that means to you. Conspiracy@iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.